I've been using the Z Fold 5 from Samsung for over a month now. I've had it since the launch day in South Korea. One of the biggest things I'll probably say after traveling with this and even using it at home is that it simplifies the experience when it comes down to using a tablet and a smartphone at the same time. When you're traveling, you want both. You have one device on the outside, that's a regular smartphone, and of course when you open it up, you're greeted with the actual tablet experience. To top it off, they've actually been able to miniaturize the S Pen to the point where it's so thin it can actually fit on the back of the device and barely add any thickness to the case. This is TK and this is my review of the Galaxy Z Fold 5 after using it for over a month. Let's check it out. Like and subscribe and make sure you hit that bell icon so that you're always notified to whenever we have new videos on the channel. Starting off real quick with the cases that I have on here, these are the Samsung made cases. As I told you guys at the beginning of the video, it actually barely adds any thickness to the back of the device, and that's how they were able to make this Z Fold, obviously supporting the S Pen, have a case that can carry the S Pen without adding any thickness to it. This is made specifically for the Z Fold. Please make sure not to use other S Pens that are not designed for the Fold to be on the S Pen. There's two different colors as far as the cases. You can see here, there's the gray, and of course there's the blue. And there's two different colors that they gave me, and of course I do prefer personally the blue one. Actually, it actually works very, very nicely. And of course with that nice little green on it. It covers all of the actual device on the back, of course leaving openings for the optics in the back with the LED. On the side we have an opening for the fingerprint sensor, the volume rocker. On the top we obviously have access to the speaker, the microphones, and last but not least the USB-C and the bottom firing speaker to give us that stereo experience. And last but not least, it also does cover where the SIM tray is present. So that's one of the other things you want to be able to be aware of. This is a single SIM device. This is how they're configuring it, at least in the market that we're in. The device is still pretty much carrying the same aesthetics. Let's go ahead and give it a second. Lock screen wallpapers, the ability of using those, and of course having your own custom launcher installed on top of the experience. So here, this is One UI 5.1.1, and I'm using Nova Prime as my primary launcher. And I'm going to talk to you guys a little bit about that as well in a little bit later on, as how has the experience been when using a custom launcher on the Z Fold. Now, one thing to mention is we do have S Pen support on the internal display, and it does run up to 120 Hertz. We do not have S Pen support on the external display. That's something that we still don't have, and hopefully we'll be able to see something like that in the future, in a future generation of Folds. Now, when it comes down to the experience, what I really like about this device is the fact of the matter is this embodies the S23 Ultra's experience down to a foldable. So it's an S23 Ultra with a foldable, and there's a couple of customizations that are done. What I mean by this is when we talk about the primary sensor on the back, that 50 megapixel camera on the back, the experience in there, the camera experience, it can mirror actually very much what we get on the S23 Ultra experience because of the way this camera is run, the way the UI is run, the amount of RAM that we have, the configuration, and all of the options that we get in here. We have DeX support, we have high refresh rate displays, we have high resolution displays, and we also have the ability of basically using this as a tablet. That's the external functionality that the S23 Ultra does not have. So that's one of the biggest things in there. The second thing that I'd love to say basically that makes this so much more functional for me is the ability of signing contract, the ability of signing documents and working on PDFs on the go in a much more hand-styled written experience. Again, something we're typically seeing on the S23 Ultra now, because the S23 Ultra is pretty much a note, then that probably explains why we have an S Pen functionality. Here it's an accessory, but I love the fact that it's easily carried and of course easily customized directly within the actual system. You're able to swap them, by the way, if you have two cases. There's no pairing configuration. Also, there's no Bluetooth functionality on the S Pens. This is pretty much a passive, so there's no need to charge it. But as it gets closer to the actual display, you'll notice that it does actually show on it, and that's one of the biggest things. Very nice, very simple ecosystem, and the software experience is what we're going to dive into a little bit. It's going to be absolutely fantastic. But what I was saying before at the start of the video is I have traveled with this internationally. So I started using this in Seoul in South Korea. And one of the biggest things I'll say is the ability of transitioning from the Z Fold 4 over to the Z Fold 5. Simple transition. We use obviously the smart switch functionalities that we have here from Samsung. That makes it very, very nice and very simple to transition from one device to the other. It copied all my information, all my accounts, all the applications, and I was able to transfer my launcher by just simply going in. So obviously this is not the Samsung launcher, but if I go straight into directly into the settings tab, Backup and restore functionality directly within Nova Prime, I'll let it quite focus, is a very simple way of backing up and restoring and sharing your file from one device to the other. Once Smart Switch was done, I was able to transfer all my applications, all my folder configurations, double tapping the ability to open up a Google search, swipe down to open up notifications, swipe up to open up apps, and of course the ability of basically just using the pen and enjoying the actual device. So that's one of the big things I really like about it. But one of the things I'll also say is that the fact of the matter is the battery life on this has been actually a lot better than I expected it to be. Much better than I've had with the Z Fold 4 for quite some time. Consistently, I've had the battery keep to about 40 to 45% at the end of the day, and that's having a mixed usage between internal and external display. And I say this because there's one thing to be said about the Z Fold 5. The fact of the matter is the external display is a very functional display. It works very well. It does everything that we needed. There is an update here. But the biggest thing obviously is to say narrow form factor, meaning it is a little bit more cramped when you're using it, and you can actually see here, for me, for the most part, two thumbs next to each other kind of covers almost half the display. So to get the best experience, I've always obviously relied on the internal display and the ability of using it as a tablet form. So you have to kind of switch it over to the side a little bit for it to get that nice longer form factor. Here, split screen, multitasking, contract signing, Adobe, effects, editing videos using LumaFusion, the ability of doing everything you want works in a very much familiar experience like a tablet. So this is one of the biggest things about traveling with this. Long battery life, DeX support, video content capture and creation straight from this device. That 50 megapixel camera on the outside is literally this lens to live by. Now I will do real quickly a small little tip here in case you guys love using social media and you'd like to be able to use that primary 50 megapixel camera sensor in all your videos. First and foremost, open up your camera application, go straight into camera and open up basically the external display. So here, I'll go ahead and turn it on. Now see, down it says turn on and open up the camera. Now by default, it keeps the internal display on and it turns on the front facing. But if you swipe away here, it kind of configures the device now to turn off the display on the back, so now you can hold it back there without initiating the functionalities of the camera. Everything is controlled on the front and you are using the main sensor. Now here is where the trick kind of comes in. Now once you turn on the real functionality, you'll notice that out of the box it starts using the front-facing camera here on the right side. But if you switch it to the back sensing camera, because the display on the back is entirely dark, we're using the phone open form with the front, we're actually now able to use the best camera on this device. The only thing I'll probably say is once you close it, of course, it goes back to normal and you can turn it back on and everything goes back to the normal way that you've had it before. Lock screen wallpaper works on both the internal and external display and it works really, really nice. The main thing I'll probably say is the overall experience having DeX, connecting this to an external monitor using wireless DeX, also very nice. And or even if you'd like to be able to connect it to your PC, a Windows PC, and you can run DeX as a parallel effect and share your internet connection during that experience in there. We have eSIM support as well as physical SIM, and that worked really good for me in South Korea when I was traveling. Even when I was able to go back into Europe, it works absolutely fantastic. Installing an eSIM, configuring it, and using it makes this entire experience very, very nice. The last thing I will say here from a software experience, something that we don't see on any of the other foldable devices on the market right now, that's the ability of customizing our experience. This is what shows us basically that Samsung's been working on these and updating them and giving us the best experience for many, many years. And that's the ability of using Good Lock. It works directly with One UI. It's available directly in the Galaxy Store. It makes your life so much better and so much more functional. The ability of customizing, even the ability of customizing this nice little dot. This is an energy ball from Dragon Ball that I like using here as my pointer for my pen. Very, very nice. I can even customize the actual pen menu here. I can change it. I can customize even the navigation buttons, a whole bunch of different things that we can do directly within Good Lock, even down to the functionality that I think a lot of people love asking me about. So swiping up to the top here, and now I'm actually able to use this nice little mouse that actually extends the functionality of my hand and not making me use my entire two-handed experience here. Very nice and very simple. And of course, I can also do like a nice little menu here, close all, that just closes all the applications. So the Z Fold 5, as I talked to you guys at the beginning of the video, although it's great that we're getting the experience very nice and very thin. The case itself adds a minimal amount of storage increase here on the side. It is noticeable, it is there. I'm not saying it's going away, but one of the biggest things I'll probably say is I wish they were able to do is we saw some renders and actual experiences where the Z Fold was actually a wider device, slightly wider, and it enabled us to actually have a housing mechanism similar to the S23 Ultra inside of the device, making it so that we don't have to have an external pen. Also maybe adding so that we have, let's say, a different type of an accessory, similar to what we saw with the Z Fold 4, something like this, where it becomes a kickstand on the outside, and that enables us to actually have a much better kind of a, slated kind of an experience But of course, what it does there is it allows us to actually put the pen inside. So I would say probably my wish list for the next version of the Z Fold is to have the S Pen built in, now that it is so thin, so small that it barely adds any thickness to the case on the outside. Now my next wish is going to be something that I've been asking for many years, and that would be the support for external display S Pen. The fact of the matter is, one of the things that still differentiates between the S23 and the Fold is the fact that the external display here, when you're using it in a phone device format, still doesn't support an S Pen. Yes, we have it on the internal display. Yes, obviously it works much better when you have a much bigger canvas. I'm not disagreeing with you there. My main thing essentially is saying, a lot of times when we have the S Pen outside, I want to take something and I want to start jogging a note. I can't do that yet because this is not a functionality here. This is one thing I would really wish again, is having external S Pen support on the Z Fold would absolutely take this to the next level. The last thing I want to talk about is obviously the functionality or the support for external launchers. This is something that we've had. Obviously we have enough RAM, we have enough resources to be able to do so. I'm running it and I'm using it on the internal and external display. But that delay in transition from the internal to the external display, although did improve with One UI 5.1.1, is still very much a present thing. If I close and I open up and turn on my display, there is still that delay in where the system has to redraw everything. It does not transition the same way. There's still always a delay. And what ends up happening is that you end up getting used to that delay. And obviously, it's not something that you should. Obviously, if you're in the moment and you really want to get things done very quickly, having the built-in a little bit of a delay switching from one side to the other is always going to be an added inconvenience. I hope in the future we'll have better support and that we will go back to the way it used to be with third-party launchers. But the fact that we can install them, that's also another win. Again, software is something that Samsung has been doing for so many years. This is the 5th iteration of the Z Fold 5. As you can see here with the camera experience that I'm sharing with you guys, it is absolutely fantastic. Gaming on this is obviously going to be one of the better experiences on the market. The external display is going to work perfectly fine, and of course you can take it to the next level with the internal display, of course, like playing Call of Duty Mobile, games like that, so that you can enjoy a much more fuller tablet-like experience. I will say though, always when you unlock your device and go to the internal display, always do this and remember to turn the phone sideways. That's going to be the tablet-like experience, because in this one it's still more of a length experience. You're able to multitask well, but when you're playing games, you want the full experience. And the display handles repeated tapping. There's no issues there. Obviously, I would probably say make sure that you're not digging into the display. It's still technically a foldable on the inside, but the experience has been really good. The cameras on this device are going to work very nice. The internal under display camera, I probably will say just use that for video. There's really not much you could do. The external front-facing camera is a decent camera for selfies, although I'd probably say is live with that 50 megapixel on the back and you will not be disappointed. That's again an attestation to what Samsung's been doing and bringing in some of the high-end flagship experience they have on the S series over to the Fold series. The Z Flip 5 got some of the most amazing updates this year with the bigger display on the outside, the obviously video output on the USB-C there. A lot of things gone in there, but I feel like the powerhouse of foldables is still reigning supreme when it comes down to the Samsung experience. I hope that if you're thinking about picking up a foldable device from Samsung is to consider the Z Fold 5, because from a tablet experience and a smartphone experience, they combine very well. The software is very mature, a lot of customizations, S Pen support is very nice, and of course, you can use it with the case without having to add too much bulk to it. I think that's what brings in and makes this a very unique experience for me. Again, the camera on the back is going to be one of your best options. The battery life is absolutely fantastic. The 8 Gen 2 has definitely improved the battery usage as well. The optimizations of 5.1.1 are always going to be able to give us that experience that we've wanted. Consistently over 40% battery life at the end of the day. And again, mixed usage, internal and external, having it on 5G and of course Wi-Fi depending on the time of the day. I hope that you found this video helpful. Let me know in the comments below what your thoughts are about the Fold 5. Have you considered this, or do you prefer the Z Flip 5? I think the Z Flip 5 definitely has a lot of things going on for it from a clamshell style experience, still a foldable, and of course goes much more compact in that clamshell when you close it. So something to obviously fit other people's choices. Not everybody's going to want a foldable that is this big. Obviously the Z Flip 5 is definitely much more affordable and offers us a lot of new unique experiences. No S Pen support, but definitely a very nice device. Like and subscribe as usual. Thank you very much for the support. I'll see you in the next video.